What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's Arza Chats here coming at you with another video, and this is one that I've been really looking forward to. We're starting episode 2 of The Penguin. Now, the first episode of The Penguin was phenomenal. It is one of the best pilots I've seen to a show in years. It had me hooked in the first 10 minutes, and it really kept my attention for the entirety of 80 minutes it was running for. And while at the end you do feel the wait a little bit, it doesn't feel like it ran for 80 minutes, it just felt like it ran for 40. But still, it was an amazing episode, and I really enjoyed it, and I really hope they continue to stick the landing. I love the portrayal of the Penguin. I really like Vic, and I really like Kristen Milioti's character. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all of them, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all the tension between the different characters. So, like, subscribe, and let's just get into this. I can't wait any longer. It starts with us in Arkham Asylum, where there is someone singing Hangman, which is the name of Kristen Milioti's character, Sophia. That's her evil nickname as the murderer. And they're singing the tune of the Freddy Krueger theme. It's late, you guys don't need to see my mug. This looks better and it fits the show much better. As we had established in the previous episode, Alberto Falcone was the only one who would visit her in Arkham and was the only one keeping her sane. And then of course, to show us that this isn't really happening, we have Falcone here with his pinky finger chopped off, indicating that this is in fact a nightmare because he had his pinky finger up until the very end of the last episode. Which, speaking of that last episode, if you haven't seen it yet, you have to watch it just for that amazing conclusion. Kicking that tension off right off the bat, this show continues to impress even with only 2 minutes into the episode. And we're inside of a therapist's office where the therapist was using a red light bar to put her in a dissociative state, which is certainly a questionable approach. It doesn't take a psych student to tell you that that is not appropriate patient touching. You're not allowed to aggressively stranglehold your patients. After stabilizing Sophia, he asks her to look at the paintings on the wall. And, this has to be Crane, right? Like, this couldn't be anyone other than Crane, because who else would have pictures of screaming people on their wall like this? If this is Scarecrow, and they just kind of hint at it, that'd be pretty cool, because Scarecrow is, like, the only popular psychiatrist in Gotham City. Well, it's not Crane, and I guess it could have been Hugo Strange, and this could be an alias for Hugo Strange, but this person doesn't look anything like Strange either. So I'm assuming this is just an original character, but it'd be really cool if this was one of the other two, because this would be the perfect kind of show to introduce either of those two characters. I am still in utter marvel at how good this bodysuit is. You literally cannot spot any place where there might be a disconnect. The closest is at the ear, but right here where there's a line here, but that could just be normal dangling earlobe that's folded into his fat. Most people keep their booze stored inside of a flask, but if Pepto-Bismol bottles were to do it for you, Oz, I can't complain. If they were trying to imply that the Penguin gets seasick, that is a fantastic idea. I don't know why you would have a villain named the Penguin and then make him seasick, but if that's what they're implying here, good on him. Though I don't know what the point is. As some other people pointed out their reviews, he's just yelling about his business in the middle of a prison. Good on him, I guess. I mean, we all know Gotham is the most corrupt city in the world, so it makes sense that no one's tattling, but do you think he'd have a little bit of tact? Though I guess this is something I could suspend with disbelief. What the audience hears isn't what the people in the show can hear. Just as I can wave away the music, I can wave away this a little bit. Except everyone's listening in, so apparently they're supposed to hear. Penguin's here trying to convince Sal to not turn him in and work with him further after blaming the death of Alberto on Salvatore. And this is one of Salvatore's companions saying that this man is a dog, but a dog can be made submissive. And that harkens back to the line from the first episode. I'm a big guy, but I know how to make myself look small to those who want to feel big. Or whatever the line was, that the whole point was he knows how to make himself seem like the underdog when in reality he's in control of the situation, and this all just harkens back to that. It's it's bare bones consistency, which is a breath of fresh air when everything we've been seeing so far, the characters have the consistency of Oobleck. Of course, all of Penguin's planning is out the window when one of the Falcones makes them change everything, put artillery in all the vehicles, and put Penguin on the truck that's going to be the center of danger. But it's all given very good heist vibes at the very beginning of this all, and I'm looking forward to it. Well, continuing, so let's stop wasting time. They're not wasting any scene. This guy is in the middle of the drive, and he asks, why do seagulls fly over the sea? Because if they flew over the bay, they'd be called bagels. Which I think is just making fun of Colin Farrell's nose. Penguin retorts back with, what's the difference between the mafia and the government? One of them is organized. And then immediately, Salvatore's car starts opening fire in one of the Falcone cars. Penguin plays it smart, he gets out of the way of the bullets, and then immediately sprays all the people in the car. Of course, the driver fails to die and is caught, and both the driver and the guy who's picking the drops both end up dying. As the car gets driven away because there's a body hunched over it. So I guess Penguin doesn't rely on them beating him up because he's been beaten up by nature. He then kills the other Salvatore gang member and gets out with the last remaining member of his crew. Sophia walks in as the Penguin and the rest of the Falcons are arguing over it. Penguin's saying that's all because of him they got out. Falcon's mad that they lost the drops. And Sophia asks, is that all you care about? The product? The money we lost? And Sophia's just mad that the family gets humiliated once again. And of course, Sophia's the only one smart enough to realize that they are probably a mole. Now, whether or not she thinks it's Penguin is left to be seen. But, of course, the crazy one is always the one who's right. And of course, everyone's pissed off. How dare you make accusations about our family? Now, the head of the Falcone family is actually picking it up. He's defending Sophia and is increasing the security measures and looking for anyone trying to sell the stolen drops. Though as far as fictional drugs go, drops is a pretty lame name. Penguin tries to do his little suck-up business. He asks the boss if he needs anything, and the boss goes, you've done enough. She totally reminds me of the evil woman in 101 Dalmatians, but, smash. He lays down the law to Sophia, making it clear that she needs to control herself and not take anything to her own hands, and he'll handle finding who the rat is on his own. She, of course, doesn't like this answer, but she doesn't immediately object and storms out of the room. And now he schmoozing up to Sophia, because Penguin is anything but a penguin. He's much more of a weasel. And, well, also a rat. And he is a sly, slippery motherfucker. This guy here is getting everything Sophia wants to hear, telling her that she should be the boss, that everyone thinks she's crazy and she can feel it and it's not right, and that she should come in, usurp her position with the new drops that Alberto Falcone had, that tied Penguin to his murder, and is the one thing that's being used to now connect the two. And because Sophia is clinically insane, none of his sucking up does anything. Every single scene, every single interaction in the show is a sparring match. They are fighting, and you never know who's coming out on top. And most of the time, it ends in a standstill where there is no clear winner. This show's writing is insanely well done. Just go and watch it, please. Penguin's ranting to Vic when Vic gets distracted by a bunch of missing posters of people who were lost during the flood when the Riddler blew up the seawall. Vic's laying out tacos they got on a plate in a fancy-ish way, and Penguin's pissed off because he had accidentally put cilantro on the plate, and oh my god, my camera will not stay focused. I guess that's the downside to filming in the dark. Now this is interesting. Only a percentage of the population tastes soap when they eat cilantro. In fact, this genetic disorder that causes the cilantro to taste like soap is only prevalent in about 14% of the population, and most common amongst East Asian women. They're listening to the car radio, and they're talking about the rise of crime in Gotham with a 42%. I guess they let the Haitians in. And then they're talking about how the new mayor is going insane, letting people out of Arkham, which sets Sophia off. As they see the name the Hangman, the driver goes to change it, and Sophia tells him to leave it on. They say that Sophia had killed a total of 7 women, and now I'm a little worried that they might try to make her a gender-swapped Zaz, but I don't think the show's dumb enough to do that. Especially because we have seen nothing that actually indicates Zaz, other than a tendency to kill women. Though I would love it if Zaz would show up, he would be perfect for this kind of grounded TV show. Sophia corners one of the members of the police. I wonder if this is Bullock, because I honestly don't remember what Bullock looked like in the movie. And she's talking to him, trying to convince him to help her find the rat that's in the Falcone organization. And they slip him drops, which of course is probably what he was looking for. And what they were talking about with the drought was the lack of drops. At first I thought they were talking about water, but it's clear that he's an addict. To the point that he, a major police member, just does them right in the middle of a bar. And the Penguin is strengthening his position within the Falcones by rallying them against Sal Maroni. Vic gets one chance to talk to a girl and he can't get any words out, and honestly, same. And she's just a total buzzkill. I just want to know what kind of room this is. His room has, like, safe doors on him, and whatever the hell these things are for evidence filing. He literally lives inside of a giant safe. And Penguin's prostitute girlfriend's pretty smart. She figures out almost immediately that he killed Alberto. She has legitimate concern for the Penguin, but she is kind of trying to hide it a little bit. And he just waves it off as he's got to do what he's got to do. I was worried this might be a teaser of her being Zaz, because she does have a bunch of scars here. But I'm only counting 6 individual cuts instead of the 7 of the amount of women she had killed. I'm also not sure why they show us that she was sleeping in her closet and not in her bed. And it looks like she had cut herself and even strangled herself with this bruising on her neck over here, and then of course the scratches on her throat. All while she was asleep. He offers to pay her a ton of money, and she tries to reject, saying this is too much, and then he gets an important phone call and hurries off. And the urgent call was about his mom. They properly confirm that she does in fact have dementia here, that they didn't really need to confirm that. Also, Penguin speaks Spanish, I guess. And he's being a good son. He pays the landlord to watch her, refusing to put her in permanent care, which is questionable, but then puts on a jazz album, and while she's clearly in distress, and they convince her to get up and dance with him. And she asks him, if my son's a failure, what am I? And Penguin just can't come up with an answer to that question. To which Vic has to inform him that the funeral is about to start, so he can attend it. And outside the funeral is a bunch of people protesting, the hangman being let out, and there's another reference to the Riddler over here. I'm on the lookout for another QR code. Hopefully we will get one. Some of these posts are interesting. Falcones equals fascist, and let's get real French with a guillotine. And Sophia standing right next to the protest. We need to bring smoking back, if only for the aesthetic. He does a good job of covering his ass because he knows how to play all the people around him. And this one time, Sophia is not on edge enough to catch them in the lie. And you can kind of see the cogs turning. I might be guessing here, but I have a feeling that Sophia is picking up on a weakness that he has for his mom. But alternatively, she could just be thinking, because this is him trying to relate to her, and the fact that she's lost her brother, and he's recounting when he lost her brothers, and how long it took his mom to recover from losing his brothers. And Penguin covers up his tracks by saying that his mom died a few years back, because, well, he's kept her hidden. Callisto gets Sophia and whispers to her that the detective says he got something, right as soon as Penguin gets a mysterious phone call from a number not logged in his iPhone. And it's interesting that he has an iPhone, given the fact that Apple had that rule about villains not being allowed to have an iPhone. I guess the Penguin isn't a bad guy? Do them? So the detective goes right up to the Falcones' residency, and what does he bring with him? A bullet wound victim. The Irvard, the guy who was a part of the heist to steal all the drops. Now, I noticed this woman's voice from anywhere. She was in Arcane. She was the old woman who was the runner of the Enforcers before the time skip. Showrunner Agdashlu. I have no idea if I said that correctly, but her voice is so distinct. The fact that they have her in this is pretty cool because I wasn't expecting her, but the moment I heard her voice, I knew exactly who that was. And they all immediately go to kill Penguin because he failed to inform them of the change of plans in the last minute. And the fact that one of their men was kidnapped straight out of the hospital. The blackmail material he was saving to give to Luca Falcone, he is now giving over to her so it can save his life. As Sophia enters the room drops dead quiet. And the sound design in this scene is incredible. Everyone's talking about how crazy he is, just coming out just about the chatter. And you hear things like people's ice clinking in their drinks. They're really setting the scene for how low it is. As she just starts shoving pasta into her face with her bare hands, just acting as crazy as possible, likely to get a reaction. Penguin convinces Vic to plant the jewels into Vidi's car so they can plant a different person to fail instead of Luca. But of course, Vic is terrified because Penguin has said they could be walking straight to their death, and the only way out is through. And Penguin's being clever. He's located that Castillo's guarding Irvard, and instead of doing anything about it directly, he's talking to the two heads of the family, saying how he already knows that they already have one of their men. And of course, the two heads of the family are completely bamboozled by this because neither of them ordered the kidnapping of a opponent gang. And Sophia hears this voice of her mom calling her and her brother to go and see that they're watching old family videos. One of Sophia's old friends and her cousin runs up and they're talking about possibly planning a girls trip, being super nice. Then Sophia's friend's daughter runs up and introduces herself, and it's very clear that Carla, the friend, doesn't actually trust Sophia, which is of course having the effect that you'd expect on someone who's as mentally fragile as she is. And then Sophia drops a veiled threat, and I'm really wondering, is this just Sophia being unhinged, or is Sophia acting intentionally unhinged to make it significantly worse for everyone else in the family? And Vic messes up his job. He had the perfect opportunity to plant the bag, say that yes, he did steal it from his car, but he messes it up. He tells Irvard, who is gravely injured and still coming off from his high that he was from the drugs that he was put on, to say that he was working with Johnny Vidi and not with the Penguin. Of course, putting more distrust within the entirety of the family and really destroying the family at every single level almost simultaneously. After Vic failed to plant the jewels, Penguin just leaves him hanging and then goes to clearly gut Irvard in such a way that covers Penguin in blood and puts his fingerprints all over the guy. And they're searching for knives because, well, they found the body before Penguin could actually plant any seeds of distrust. And of course, he's the only one with the knife. And he's trying to hide the knife inside of his sleeve, which we'll see whether or not that manages to work. And Penguin decides to pick a fight with Vidi because he's, of course, been trying to set Vidi up to fall this entire time. And as he grabs Vidi, it's very clear that he plants the knife into Vidi's coat. So even I was tripped up. It looked like they were planting it on Vidi, but apparently he planted it on Castillo, Sophia's bodyguard. Sophia is, of course, angry that she wasn't allowed to kill Castillo and, in her mind, avenge her brother. And then, of course, Luca is saying that she should go off and should go back to Italy. And this harkens back to the conversation about Lake Como with her cousin that we mentioned earlier. That was when she was talking to the little girl. As Vic tries to get out of the hole that they're being forced to bury the two guys in, Penguin pushes him back down and tells him to lay down where he belongs. Once again playing will he not kill Vic. I swear 90% of the scenes with Sophia just looks like a mosaic. And then, of course, this means Penguin had to completely waste the diamonds on some nobody just so he could get Sophia's trust. She comes and she refuses to let these old fucking men push her around anymore. But you know what? This one doesn't sound like some kind of rambling from a feminist. This one actually sounds like a woman who's referring to specific men. And this really shows the difference in how a lot of woke stuff gets written, where you have woke and then you have good quality writing, and they don't seem to understand the difference. And the difference here is that she's justified in what she's saying. And more importantly, she's not saying all old men. She's specifically referring to a couple of them, and it's not unearned. It's earned. This is an earned statement. She deserves to be saying this because she has actual reason to believe it's their fault, instead of it being some kind of perceived grievance against the idea of old men. So far, she's an incredibly well-written, mentally insane character who is being very well performed, and I really hope they keep up with that. There was one report that claimed that she was the girl to everything, but so far, they're not playing into the girl to everything trope, and hopefully it just sticks to this sheer level of quality. Now, something that my attention has been called to is that little snippet at the behind the scenes that plays at the end of every episode, and honestly, I'm glad I logged into this one. The woman talking says that Sophia walks into a very misogynistic situation, and while she's perfectly fine to believe that, thankfully it's not leading to the show, but of course, you better look for red flags where they may appear, just so you can be on guard in case they actually turn into something. The mob's never been very friendly to women. No shit, the mob's never been very friendly to anyone. She said that she's coming home and not feeling welcome and saying that's because she's a woman. I don't know who the woman is that's talking, but what is she? She's not welcome because she's mentally insane and a mass murderer. That's why. It's not because she's a woman. It's because she's a mass fucking murderer. So the woman who's talking is Lauren LaFranc, the creator / showrunner, and she's the one saying all this absolutely brain dead stuff. I don't know what she's talking about because it's not in the show. And hopefully it stays out of the show and she just puts in her 2 cents outside of it. Because if this gets translated into the show, it might kill what's starting out to be an amazing season. And now this part, they're just blowing smoke up Sal Maroni's wife's ass. I'm not really sure why. They're talking about how she moved from Iran and she's fell in love with the Italian culture. And they're talking about how Sal is just completely smitten by her. And I don't know what the point of this is. But they claim that Salas could replace the entirety of his Italian mafia with the Persian mob because of how smitten he is with his wife. I guess this is one cool thing. They're talking about some of the technology during the FEMA heist where they had special guns that were designed to flash so that the actors could feel the effect of the flash of the gun, which is pretty cool because it makes the weight feel a bit more heavy and it requires less CGI and is a bit more practical, which always looks better. And then he made it lame by saying that it was just done so they didn't have real guns on set. Which, to be fair, you don't want to have real guns on set if you can avoid it because, well, shrapnel, you can have the Alec Baldwin situation. But you should, instead of commenting on the fact that it makes it safer, you should prioritize the fact that it looks better than having to just add muzzle flash. So, Penguin Season 2. Was it a hit? Was it a miss? Well, obviously, it was a hit. It was almost as good as the pilot, not quite as good. A bit of a less of a payoff, but it's setting up a lot more. It's especially setting up a strong future with Sophia and Penguin starting to team up. Well, Sophia still doesn't trust Penguin or anyone else. And of course, Penguin doesn't trust anyone other than himself. And while a lot of the comments made in that ending seems like a really big red flag, so far none of that's leaked into the show. Now, I'm worried that what's going to happen is they're going to slowly insert it and then dump it all on us at the very end and turn it into an absolute girl boss of an ending, which would absolutely ruin the show. Hopefully, these are just idiotic comments that someone made during an interview, but don't actually get implemented in the show, but we'll have to see. So far, I'm still incredibly hyped for the show, but that does put me a little bit on edge. It does give me a bit of a red flag and give me a bit of a point of concern. But we'll see whether or not that concern gets justified or if it just gets waved away because of how great the rest of the show is. But honestly, I'm still hooked. I'm still looking forward to it. And honestly, I hope that it stays being just as good as it has been. So go out, go watch the show because it deserves your watch time. And let me know in the comments what you think, if you think this is going to bleed into the show. And I will see you guys on the next episode.